come check out 4 big hobby hacks for painting Chaos Space Marines.
Spiking bits.
What's up, hobby maniacs? Rob Baer back with you again today with a fresh tutorial for 2017. We're coming in hot, painting Mr. the Betrayer, Mr. Karn, live on our Twitch streams over the past week or so. And I figured I would finish up some of the off-camera stuff and cut a tutorial on it, because there's actually a lot of tips for painting Chaos Marines that you could learn and add to your hobby arsenal to get those Chaos guys out the door. Of course, everybody's going to be playing Chaos over the next couple of months with the Fall Acadia and the big Traitor Legion release that just came out. I don't know if you know, but Chaos has a lot of gold trim on it. So I'm going to give you some tips and tactics and advice on how to paint both gold and regular metals, along with bone details and all of those crazy like plastic greaves and power cables that are all over these miniatures here. Now, one caveat aside, we had a lot going on here at the Beats Laboratory. The South is in a deep freeze. Everything came in late. We're frantically trying to respond to all our messages and check all our emails and get all our videos done over the past weekend. So we got a little behind on this tutorial. I did not realize that my hair was actually bumping the microphone a couple of times in the video itself. So if you hear little bumps, that's what it is. I can't feel my hair. It's too spiky. It hits the microphone sometimes. So we're gonna redo our whole setup here for cutting tutorials, because we can't have that happen again. But unfortunately, do not have time to cut the tutorial again. We're here. This is happening. Please forgive me, but there's a lot of good content in this video itself to help cut down your paint time on your Chaos miniatures. So I think you will enjoy and find a lot of these hints and hobby hacks very useful. So now that technically we have all of our metals base coated at this point, we are going to go in and do some washes. For the gold, we're going to use a gloss, like I showed you earlier, the Reikland Flesh shade gloss right here. And that's because it goes over very smooth. It goes over even better over organics and things if you have semi-gloss your model with a spray. But at this particular time, I haven't done any matte or semi-gloss, so semi-gloss is going to be great, but we are putting it over flat surfaces. So, you know, it might have been a little too overkill if we had used a matte, or excuse me, if we had already semi-glossed this for straight surfaces. But for this, it's going to be perfect. So I'm just going to get in here, and this is an area that I have already glossed. I'm not happy with the look of it because the stuff didn't dry over the rivets. So I'm going to give it a second coat, and we're going to see how that looks, because I really want these rivets and things to be pronounced, because let's face it, it is Karn. His axe would definitely be shiny, which I have already highlighted it too, but this gloss should just get in there and kind of not necessarily kind of go everywhere. It should kind of stay around the rivets and things, thus keeping with that whole like being out of the eye of terror, you know, veteran of the long war kind of thing. So there you can see it did work. We have a cat hair. Cat hairs alert. Double cat hairs, the worst. Anywho, that's why we keep tweezers around. So if you do have pets, you may want to definitely consider having a set of tweezers around, because they will definitely come in very handy to remove those unwanted pet hairs. Because let's face it, unless you like lock up your miniatures every night and, you know, always be watching your stuff even when you're asleep, you're gonna get some pet hairs from time to time. Okay, so we're gonna get back in here and we're gonna hit all these areas underneath here. Now I am using a chisel brush, which is one of my favorites. If you're familiar to this channel and my tutorials, you know how I feel about this. It'll pick up so much of the wash and just redeposit it back down, and the chisel gives you directional control for the most part over a lot of the areas. Like these are very thin parts here, and I was able to mostly control where I was putting it. I will have to go in there and just touch it up just a couple of spots right there, but that's way better control for a brush of this size, I feel like. And then I'm going to get right there, you see, on that rivet. So just kind of going to repeat the whole process all the way down, just hitting the areas that I really want to focus on, but also just kind of working it and going back. I actually didn't hit the underneath in the Twitch tutorial. So we're going to do that as well right here. And this will give you an idea of what it'll look like with just one application of the wash. So don't be afraid to come back in. Once you get a wash on an area, it's going to actually stick, right? So once it sticks and dries, now you have a surface that another light wash, which this is a light wash because it does have that gloss in it, is going to kind of come in and stick to. So you can see the best of both worlds as we're working this right here, and it's going to start drying. Another thing to consider is having a little portable fan going in the background, as that, just even if it isn't blowing directly on it, will help with your dry times immensely. Just the air just kind of circulating in general definitely helps out a whole lot. So I'm just checking all my angles here at this point. Sorry, off camera. Trying to be as thorough as possible for you guys. I really like this Reikland Flesh shade. It really reminds me of some of the old inks from back in the day that were... Let's get that in focus there. Come on. This camera has definitely been acting up lately. I don't know why. Sometimes it might have been because I flipped the base up. Good thing to remember. For the most part, this is a great camera, don't get me wrong, but you know, it's consumer technology, it's all we can afford. That unfortunately, sometimes it just autofocuses whatever it wants. That's why I'm constantly looking up at the viewfinder to make sure we're good for you guys. So there will be a pause, which I'm pretty much used to pausing anyways for checking all the chats and everything on Twitch. It's definitely becoming a routine, which I thoroughly enjoy myself. So there you can see side with 2 coats, not dry yet. Side with 1 coat, a little out of focus again, apologies. Side with 1 coat, in the process of drying. We're just going to kind of keep a loose eye on it. But I wanted to show you this big flat surface here that's on the back. Now, you're probably like, well, that's great. Those little areas are easy. But this is why we select the gloss varnish, because at this particular juncture, if we just used a normal flesh shade, this would not spread as well. A normal flesh shade would look really terrible at this point. I'm going to dab this off because this is way too much wash. But a normal flesh shade would not do this. Would not kind of spread like it is. And we have to be very careful here because we want to turn the corner. We want to get all of these little spiky bits, spiky bits on the side. In case you didn't know, that was actually me, as you can tell right there. Okay, and then we'll get, like I said, it just randomly goes out of focus. I am trying my best here, folks. But I feel like that's a lot of tutorials out there, unfortunately. So we are not immune to any of that. So this is going to spread really well. You can kind of see me working with it. Now again, if I had a fan going, this would dry a lot quicker. You would see more immediate results right here, literally while I was doing it. But we don't have the fan going basically for sound, for picking up the mic. It is a little kind of annoying when you're going to do sound edits and it doesn't transfer very well. So I'm just going to stop right here once I get these big areas, because I'm going to need to get a finer brush. I don't want to, actually with the flesh shade here, that's what I shaded the red with, so I'm actually not worried about it. I'm just going to go ham and hit all these edges. Again, that's why we have a chisel brush, because I'm just going in here and hitting literally the bottom of the brush, and it's dumping paint onto that flat edge right there. And yeah, it will get a little in there on the red, but we're going to hit it with a light dry brush of Kadar red, or well, I guess right there it would be a light dry brush, and we're gonna hit it with Kadar red. So there you go. That kind of gives you the idea. The back is already starting to dry very well, actually, over the rivets. This will probably need a second coat to emulate what we got going on right here. That nice, rich, kind of brassy gold. Didn't want to go brass, definitely wanted to go gold. And then when we flip back to here, you can see where it's a little lighter. So this is, I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna give it another coat. But you can see right here that it's good to go almost at this point. And then we'll just let it dry and we'll come back in and highlight it. Okay, so now all of that has dried. I went in there and I worked all the gold as best I could with multiple coats all the way through, using the gloss varnish, the flesh shade. I did a couple of details too while I was in there with the detail brush, like the grenade, because we're going to wash that. And I started to do some of the straps, but we're going to come back and show you some of that. So next up, we're going to use a special. This is that mix I was talking about that's still like Devil and Mud. It's 50/50 Agrax Gnome and a hint of that same flesh. Now this is not gloss. This is your old school, which they sell in the bigger bottles now, but just make sure when you're buying this stuff that you look and it says either gloss or not gloss, because you got to be super careful. It's easy to do on those 4 main colors. So I'm going to grab one of our water palettes. Turns out you can get these from drinking a lot of water. Not sold separately. This is all credit up. So sometimes you have to do this. I should be wearing gloves, but I think it'll be okay. Here we go. So just a little bit in here. And now, well, that's probably too much. We'll put some back. Now we're going to use that same brush, that same wedge brush. And check our consistency. And this is a wash. This is not a glaze. It's not supposed to be thin. It's just thin enough with a little bit of 50/50 water and Future 4 wax to give it that pop, but it's not full-on gloss like what we just saw with the flesh shade. Alright, so now it's in focus, and now we're just going to literally trace over everything, just give it a nice liberal coat, and then going back and checking for pools on the model itself. Just like this. And like I said, you could have a little fan going. And what that's going to do is circulate the air so this dries pretty quick, and you don't have to worry as much when you're moving all of the things around at 360 and stuff draining in the wrong direction. But eventually, and you can see here, I'm just giving it some more. This up here is going to be bone, and we're gonna do that here in a second too. We're gonna go in and base coat it, but there's a reason I wanted to do these washes first before I go in and do anything bone, and you'll see that in a second. So I'm gonna do the rest of this, and then I'm gonna come back and show you what it looks like all dried up. Okay, so now that we've gotten all of our metals blocked in, washed, and everything like that, you can already see there's a natural progression with that fake Devil and Mud mix. I also went back over and put in the gold details over top of the plasma pistol and shaded it as well, because the next step is to shade all of the metals. And we're just doing them both at once, the gold and the silver, because that just seemed like a good idea. Because you're doing all this wash work, you might as well go in and highlight them together, because you'll kind of be working in the same areas. So we're going to block that out, but you can see right here, I've already started on some of the metals just to give you an idea of how easy it really is. For the silver, we are going to be using Model Air Aluminum from Vallejo. This is a great color that really has that pop. I actually didn't know about this color. I saw this on one of Kenny's videos over at Next Level Painting, and I had been using chrome, but let me tell you what, this aluminum is the heat when it comes to just making that pop. I mean, you can see it in the camera still, and that model is definitely way farther away and a little bit darker, I feel like. So we're just gonna dab some of this out. Now it is an airbrush paint, which is good, which is both good and bad. It's bad because it's gonna be a little liquidy, right? And it's good because it's not gonna dry out, because it is that watery right there. So we're just gonna get some on our brush, and we're just gonna do the whole edge highlighting type deal, and just going over every surface area at the right angle, just very, very gently, which you can kind of see here that I already did, but I didn't get these chains down here. But now you can tell this is the progression from just the wash, and that's the progression with the highlight color, okay? So this is almost semi-dry brushing, but we're gonna make sure we have a nice tip, a nice chisel tip on our brush. Actually, we don't really need the chisel part. And then we're just gonna get in here and we're just gonna scrape across. We're using the tip again, just the tip, just feeling it out, just hitting the tops of the models right there, and there you can see where it's popped. And just very gently going in here, trying to make sure you guys can see, keeping it in focus. But I mean, this is very simple. It's those edges are already raised. It's like doing the work for us, really, right here. And then that looks highlighted on those chains, right? Well, let's go in here and let's hit these. Let's hit the straight edge right here, right across. Then a combination of dab and not dab, and then boom, it just pops on its own. We'll hit the edge of the little morning star foil thing. Get in there and hit this side. I mean, this is super easy stuff right here to do. And we're just gonna go through and we're gonna hit all of these areas from the appropriate angles on all of the silver metal first. Next up is doing the gold trim. Here you can see all of the silvers pretty much done. Got in there tight. Got all the highlights on everything. Actually, the silver through the camera looks a little bright. I'm not sure what that's about, but I still see the clear highlights and things in certain areas. It might just be the light there. Sometimes those things are a little hard to find in the viewfinder, but trust me, the silver definitely pops, and that was just like a two-stage thing: base coat, wash, and then hyper highlight / minor dry brush with the aluminum. Basically, we're going to do the same thing with the gold. This time we're using Liberator gold, which you can see there. I got the top open already, which is very similar to the same color we just used. You can see, well, I guess you can't see right there, but right there, that it is the highlight. It's basically the Retributor mixed in with some silver itself, turned into a new paint. And that's how they generally make silver or gold highlighted paint right there. So we're just going to come in. Let's get this in focus. There we go. We're just going to come in hot and just hit the edges. Nothing new. We've showed you this before, how to hyper highlight edges. And there it is. Look at that. Nice clean edge. You can tell it's not the shine of the light. It is definitely there. And it looks very, very good. I'm super happy with that. And then you just got to kind of start painting by numbers, hitting all your edges at that hot angle right there. You don't have to do everything. Like I'm probably gonna, when I go inside here, these little loops, I'm probably just gonna do this over on this side right here. I'm not gonna hit all of it because that's kind of like its own highlight in and of itself, right? Like that. Kind of see what I mean? So you don't have to hit every little thing, but you're going to want to go through and do all the motions, hit all those hard edges. I mean, in the stuff like these spiky parts, or spiky bits right here on his helm are definitely going to be high traffic noticeable. So you're probably going to want to go in and make sure you hit those individually, just so you can pop those right off. And they really do shine. Like, this is a great golden color. I haven't found anything comparable in Vallejo yet, but I'm really liking what it does here, and that pop it really brings to this armor right now. And there's all the gold blocked in pretty well. Did a little effects up there on the sword, give it that kind of ghostly demon kind of feel for Karn himself. So that's really coming along nicely, well, for the Gore Child. Now we're going to go in and we're going to block in these skulls, and to do so, you'll notice that pretty much everything there is dark as all get out. So we're going to use Karak Stone. It's a great layer paint from GW. If it was lighter colors here, I wouldn't sweat it. I would just go in with our first bone coat, which is going to be Menoth White base. But that, as you can see, is not the case. So we're going to use this Karak Stone to get in here. And let's see, what are we going to... Where can you see? Where would be a good spot? Let's do this flying skull right here on the chains. So we're just going to get a little bit of this on our brush, rinse the brush out, make sure the paint itself is thinned down to a decent amount. Like I said, it is going to cover over that darker color. as long as we have a good consistency. So there we go. And you see I'm using my pinky again to go in here and nug out the support. Now it is going to get a little messy because there is the little tops of the chain right there that we're going to have to redo. But that's kind of not a big deal, to be quite honest. We can just go in there, and the Agrax itself, which is the wash we're going to use for this bone skull color, will cover it up. It won't be 100%, but it'll be good enough. Or we could just hit it with the other one. It doesn't really matter either way, but we're going to try to not get any bone color up on the chains. Again, if I was doing this where, you know, I could get a little bit closer to the model itself, it would be probably a little less sloppy, but that's okay. We're not here for technique, we're here for the knowledge of what's going on here. And obviously I won't lie, I'm using the viewfinder on the camera to even see the model, because this is a little ways away from my body, which I feel is okay though. Plus it helps me make sure that it's in focus for you guys. So it takes a little bit, and it may take an extra coat, to be quite honest. It looks like it's a little smeary, but I can tell you that that is not a big deal, because it would take super multiple coats of that Menoth White base to get in here. But now we're nugging this out, we're getting this done, and next up it is going to be that Menoth White base and then a wash. So I am just gonna kind of work this a little bit, and we're gonna come back, and I'll probably just go ahead and apply the Menoth White as well and skip a step for you guys. So the base coat is now complete. We did, like I said, Karak stone and then Menoth White base over top of that. So it was probably a total of 4 coats, 2 of each, to get that skull to that point. And now we're gonna create the contrast with Agrax Earthshade Gloss. So we're gonna get in there, we're gonna create the depth and kind of the brown, I guess, of the skull itself with a little bit of work. Now this is the gloss. Remember, gloss works way differently from the normal Agrax Earthshade. So we're just gonna get it right on here to the focal point, which is the skull's face. Make sure we get a good application of wash. Normally I'd use a chisel brush, but this little brush is probably just as fine because it's that small of a detail area. It doesn't really matter. And you can see right there, it's really starting to grab all of that. And I'm actually going to go over top because remember, like I said, we got a little bit on the chain, so I went back and painted the chain metal. So we need to create that that shade on the metal too. I'm going to flip it around and hit it from the back side, which I guess is the front side. So confused about my sides right now. And it's just going to pool. Now at the bottom, probably don't want that much pooling. So we're just going to dab off our brush and get in there and whisk it away. It's still got a little bit. Still creating that definition, which at this point you need to work your wash so it doesn't dry and pool in like random spots, like right there, right up around the chain. That's unacceptable. We don't want that. So I'm going to get in there and whisk it away as well. Or on the bottom right there, that's probably a little too much. So we're just going to dab that off and leave a little bit in there, just a little bit. And there you got, there you can kind of see the progression of the skull all the way around 360. And it's looking good. So we're gonna let that dry, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. Now, if the fan was going, just blowing ambient air all around, it probably would have been dry by now. So that's a good way to speed up your process, because right then it would have been nice to move on to another step. Well, we're gonna let this dry, we're gonna keep an eye on it, we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna do all these power cables and things that are all over the place. Next part's it's a little bit of winging it. So we went in here and we Agrax Earthshade with gloss. You can see the skull is very well contrasted now, but it's a little dark. which is okay because we're all about contrast, right? So now what I want to do is go back to the Menoth White base, mix up a little of this, then grab a little of the Menoth White highlight, open that up as well, give it a good shake. Yeah, it's getting work. I'm just going to leave them open here, and I'm just going to kind of freestyle. Let's get a good angle for y'all. Because the focal point is going to be the front of the skull, which is technically the back of the model. The back sides these. So I'm going to get in here with the Menoth White base, and I'm just going to start hitting the raised edges, like the teeth, which you can see kind of a couple right there. Just kind of these raised edges like the forehead and stuff. And it looks very bright, and it is, don't get me wrong. But this is the base color, you know? And we can come back in, we can cut it all down, and then we're just gonna hit these raised edges back here, just towards the top, of course. I know it's hard to see between that axe, and I apologize. It's a focusing issue a little bit here, but we're catching those angles. And the same thing down underneath, which should be a little bit easier to see. And around that corner there, on the back of the skull. So we're getting all that. It's really starting to make sense now, I think. And we could stop right there, which I feel like might not be a bad idea. I'm just gonna go up top here a little bit, just to kind of fill it in. I know it's getting out of focus. I probably picked a terrible skull, but I think you're getting the drift, because I know it's coming through on the camera for the most part when it's not catching other parts there. So you can definitely see the contrast. Now this is glossy, so it is a little shiny. Just kind of disregard that in your mind right now and kind of get a feel for the effect we're going for. Now, I'm gonna rinse off my brush, and I'm not sure that this Menoth White highlight is too high, so I'm gonna mix up 50-50 of the base and the highlight right here, just on an ad hoc kind of palette together. And I'm gonna get in here and I made a fine tip. I'm just gonna hit these teeth, and I'm just gonna hit these raised edges here. And yeah, that is pretty bright still, so I'm kind of glad I didn't go straight to the highlight. But it's really looking like a crazy bleach skull. Now I want to pull some lines in here to make it kind of look like it's burned out, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what we're doing here. We can't really do it on the top because that skull chain thing is there, but we're gonna do our best. There it is, coming into focus. You're kind of starting to get the idea, and I'm gonna kind of pull them from the back too. Now, normally I just would have, oh, okay, that's a good angle. Normally I would have just gone and just said what I was gonna do, but I really want to show you guys this technique because I know bone is really hard for a lot of people. So just putting some streaks in there. And there we go. Nice bleach skull. That's looking really good. I'm really happy with that. There is kind of like this line at the back where the wash kind of dried, I guess. Not 100% happy with it, but it doesn't look bad per se. I mean, it's just like a dimple. Let's see. Nah, it doesn't look bad. It's all in my mind. So now what we can do, I'm sure that's dry because there wasn't much paint on there. We can make a quick little wash, or glaze rather. Same stuff. We're going with the Airbrushing gloss again, but we're going to just drop a little bit of it in a water bottle palette here. We don't need a whole lot either. It's just like a little bit, okay? And then we're going to grab some of our floor wax. Apparently I can't talk today. And water mix here, 75% water. Put a couple of drops in there, 25% future floor wax. And this is going to be the basis of our glaze, which you can see right there. We knew how thick it was last time. Now it is thinner and runnier, so we liking that. So now we're just going to go in, make sure we didn't get any on our fingers to rub all over the model. Get some. There we go, focus. Alright. And we're just going to hit it all over with the glaze. And now that skull is looking super fresh, blend it all down. You can give it another glaze after that dries, but it's going to be a hot minute. Again, I don't have the fan going because the audio is poor when we do that, but you kind of get the idea, I feel like, right there. And we're going to go through and do all of the other bone details, the ones down here, the ones right here. Get this big one on the cock piece right here, cock pad. And I think there's one on top. Yeah, there's one on top of the plasma pistol too. But that is for another day. So right now, the last thing we're going to show you is what are we going to do? Let's do the wire detail here that we've already started. So I'm going to show you a great color called Tire Black from Secret Weapon Miniatures. Nice color on the brush here. And all this is we're just going in and painting by number, looking for all those elbow joints and greaves and things that normally you would paint black on power armor. And we're just going to paint them this tire black instead. And you can already tell that that is a coal that's not your normal black. It's got a shade to it. It's almost like a dark Thunderhawk blue from Games Workshop. So I'm going underneath the underarm there. Remember, always move the model so you're working smarter, not harder. Let's just hit this up and then detail it out for you guys so we can end the video, because I know there's been a few of these. We got some on there. Is that? I can't tell. Looks like it was. Can't tell at this point. It looks like I got a little over top of it, but that's okay. Sometimes you make mistakes. You can erase things with your finger, but you always want to be careful. You don't just get arbitrarily colors on things. Yeah, I definitely got some on that stud there. That's okay. So we're just gonna hit up these power cables, power couplings. Probably gonna do a lot of this and stuff, but I'm not gonna show you that right this second. I want to focus on these couple of areas just to highlight and show you what it's gonna look like afterwards. So next paint on deck is the Secret Weapon Miniature Rubber Highlight. As you can imagine, it is the natural highlight to this color. Also, it is thinner in theory, but I'm also not going to use the dropper bottle just because I don't put much faith in. I love Secret Weapon Miniatures products, but I am just too forceful. My hobby muscles are too strong when it comes to these bottles, and sometimes I explode them all over myself. So we're not going to take any chances with that one, for sure. All right, where was that paint? There we go. So you can see, can you see? I do not think you can see. Here we go. Can't tell where the camera is. There we go. You can kind of see the paint right there. It's more of a like a bluish gray, I guess. So we're just gonna dab off the brush, and we're gonna use it kind of as a hyper highlight / dry brush right over top of these coils to give it that highlight we need. Get a good angle here. There we go. Very lightly over those. Same right here. Very light. Couple of lines is okay. And if you catch the line, that's not that big of a deal. And then over here on this power box generator thing, I don't know what it is, but we're going to detail it out because it provided that contrast right over here. So we're going to hit all those edges, just kind of turning it, working the edges here. We're going to go across the grain right here to produce that effect. Maybe a little bit more forceful with it. But there you can start to see. I'm going to go back and grab some more paint. And that's what it's all about. It's just working the paint on your brush, kind of being able to tell when it's almost gone. Alright, there we go. Kind of get the idea there. Coming over here. And just hitting all those edges wherever a highlight would be. And that provides a really great natural contrast to all the stuff going on over here. And we're staying with that blue palette too, which is really good for these blue tassels we're going to do in front. And then also the red, because the red has a little bit of blue purple in it, which obviously has blue in it. And so we're working that color wheel all over Mr. Betrayer here. So that's it. We're just hitting all these edges. Now these are the tools to put in your hobby arsenal, your hobby toolbox, on how to highlight black, all the joints and things on a Space Marine, how to hyper highlight things, how to make gold and silver trim look good, how to make a fake Devlin mud wash, basically, because they definitely don't sell that stuff anymore. And we also showed you, what else did we show you? Oh, bone. We also showed you a great way to do bone as well. So these are 4 big hobby detail hacks that you can use on your miniatures, regardless of if it's Karn the Betrayer or Abaddon or Saint Celestine. I mean, these should work with all of those things there. I'm just going and finishing this off while I'm talking, giving you guys my final conclusions on this matter. And I really like these secret weapon acrylics because they make these colors that companies don't. That Justin's really good about. Hey, I really need this color. Nobody makes it. I can make it. And there you go. He's a smart guy. That Justin at Secret Weapon Minis. So there you can see it. Now we could hit this with a little bit of a black glaze. To be quite honest, it probably isn't that bad of a thing to do. I wouldn't hit it with Agrax because that is going to be a brown. But we could hit in there and pop that with a black glaze, and then it would definitely be good to go. Well, here, let's just do it on here. I feel like I already gave my conclusion, so we shouldn't, but I am going to do it. So we got gloss. We need a gloss non-oil, which is easy. Here we go. Gloss non-oil. Drop a little of this on top of one of, oh no, not that one. Drop a little of this on top of one of these. And we're going to use take what's in the top of the palette here. This is super easy. And then we're going to grab our 75% water. Just one drop, it looks like. 25% Future Floor Wax. Make a super thin translucent glaze. Just like that. And drop it in. Wait for the focus. There we go. Drop it in over top of this power conduit thing. And you can see immediate contrast over here on these power cables. Might be a little too much on there. But again, pretty much immediate contrast. So good stuff there for sure. Like I said, that blue really pops. I like it. And there it is. Quick and easy hobby detail techniques you can use on your miniatures, starring Karn the Betrayer.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos,